In its hidden war in California and other states, the tobacco industry has also interfered with county health departments by requesting huge numbers of documents.
In February of 1993, we were initially tipped off that this was happening because we got a request from a local resident and a $50 check. We're very busy, and when we got that request, we realized that if we were to spend all the time collecting all the documents, copying the documents for the folks that requested them, that it would tie up our staff time, tie up resources, and our ability to do the work that we're mandated to do by the voters of California. Once we started looking into who actually wrote the check to pay for the document requests, we called Americans for Non-Smokers' Rights because we knew that they were familiar with tobacco industry front groups, and they were able to trace that law firm back to Philip Morris. Contra Costa County Health Department was not the only target of these requests. We knew of about 12 to 14 other requests once we put the word out to other counties throughout the state, who responded to us and let us know that they had the exact same request.
The one example where I felt that we were being harassed was when they came into our office, two of their representatives unannounced, and basically stated that they demanded immediate access to some of our files, and in accordance with the Sunshine Ordinance, which is a public access local ordinance in San Francisco. And it was their manner and demeanor. They were waving around a brochure and just really using very threatening body language. And so I immediately got on the phone to the city attorney and made sure that I responded in a way that was legally correct. And I felt very intimidated and harassed by that kind of behavior.
The contrast between working, say, within the tobacco industry versus in tobacco control, whether it be your local health department or some other program, is one. The tobacco industry is a Formula One race car screaming at 300 miles an hour with an unlimited gas supply, and the other one is a pair of rollerblades, and the only thing you've got is leg power. You're trying to tackle a million issues all at once, and you've got no money to do it, no time, and no people.
There's obviously an enormous amount of money in the tobacco industry. The ability to not only convey their message through advertising and other means, but also the ability to influence legislators. This enables the tobacco industry to have an impact that is vastly disproportionate to the number of people who control the industry itself. Certainly, the tobacco industry has overplayed its hand. One can't help but to recall the hearings conducted by Congressman Waxman in Washington a few years ago, where one industry leader after another testified under oath that tobacco was non-addictive.
Yes or no? Do you believe nicotine is not addictive?
I believe nicotine is not addictive.
Cigarettes and nicotine clearly do not meet the classic definitions of addiction. There is no intoxication.
We'll take that as a no.
I believe that nicotine is not addictive.
And I too believe that nicotine is not addictive.
Only for us to find later on that if those statements were at best incredibly disingenuous. That kind of cynical behavior, I think, has helped fuel public disenchantment with the tobacco industry.
Victor Crawford was a lobbyist for the Tobacco Institute. He specialized in state and local issues, and he knows how the tobacco industry undermines local smoke-free legislation.
It is the goal of the tobacco industry to emasculate all local tobacco control activity and reserve all power over tobacco issues to the state legislature. The reason is simple. As a lobbyist, I never stood a chance arguing the tobacco industry's case before local governments bodies such as city councils and county councils. Why? Because at the local level, the people sitting on the council or sitting in the mayor's office are friends and neighbors of the proponents of the legislation, while the tobacco lobbyists are hired guns. And there are simply too many towns and cities for even the tobacco industry to send a lobbyist to every hearing. Far better, from the industry's point of view, to keep everything in the state legislature, where money and influence can help win the day.
Well, this is a very complex question.
Statistics cannot prove
a causal relationship between smoking and disease.
This is a
very complex question.
We remain committed to advancing scientific inquiry into the gaps in knowledge in the smoking controversy.
It's very clear that the tobacco industry has misled the public concerning what they knew and when and the types of research they were doing. I mean, if you just go back to the executives swearing before Congress, you know, that they didn't have any of this research. They didn't have anything to prove nicotine was addictive. They didn't have anything on cancer. And here's 4 years later, and now they're saying, oh, sure it causes cancer. Sure it's addicting. We didn't know you wanted that information. We have a lot of money. Can you help us out? So they've intentionally misled the public. And now what they're intentionally doing is buying their way out of they're buying immunity.
The tobacco industry knows the truth about the science of tobacco. But it's not about to share that knowledge with the public. When Victor Noble's research revealed the truth, Philip Morris shut down his lab.
When we went to Philip Morris, we both, my associate and I, signed secrecy agreements. We knew we would never be able to talk about the research. We knew that the laboratory was a secret lab. But we went there thinking that we were going to be able to do some good and make a new product. Once we figured out that our laboratory was a liability, once we figured out that what we were doing was going to potentially damage the company, then it was clear to us that they were going to reverse their position, and they did. And they made us pull the paper out. It was also very clear that they were going to close our lab down. The laboratory was really rolling, and we had very promising results. We actually found a molecule that could replace nicotine. The brain of the animal recognized it as nicotine, but the heart did not. And in April of 1984, in the midst of the height of the research, where we had the substitute, they came to us and they called us upstairs, me upstairs, and they said, as of 3 o'clock, and it's now 10 after 3, we don't do this research anymore, you're fired. Pack up your, go downstairs and kill your animals, turn over your documents. And send Paul up here, and he got fired too. And the next day, we couldn't get back in the building. Our passes were deactivated. They sent us off to a different site, sent us away from the research. We couldn't get on the research center anymore. But 1 week later, they couldn't open the safe where we kept all the control substances. And this was a 4-year laboratory. We had almost 500 rats. We had rooms of equipment, computers, all sorts of stuff. And 1 week later, when I went back to open that safe, everything was gone. Everything. It was like it never existed. You walk in and there was a stupid safe. All the rats were gone, all the cages were gone, all the bottles were gone, all this operating room was gone, everything was gone. It was absolutely amazing. And they just shut us down. The industry is very controlling and has gone to great lengths at controlling its own researchers and controlling what will be published and what won't be published and who does this research and what university. But they also have front groups. And these are organizations that are specifically designed to refute reputable science, specifically designed to find things that raise questions about cancer and heart disease. The most notable one, of course, is the Tobacco Research Council. This was totally funded by the industry. It's supposed to be an independent group. It was formed to get to the bottom, if you will, of the controversy of whether or not smoking causes health-related problems.
There really is no scientific controversy about the health effects of tobacco smoke. But the tobacco industry continues to use PR campaigns to create a false controversy. And the hidden war goes on. But when it comes to the visible war, people are making progress in their own communities.
I think the tobacco industry is very sophisticated in advertising and targeting certain communities. It's a business that plays around and dances with death. They do a very effective job. We're trying to be more effective than they are, and it's a challenge.